As excited as I am for Hogwarts Legacy, after the first gameplay showcase, although very impressive in some areas, I realized that I might have been hyping myself up a little bit too much for this game. Many of my worries stemmed from the idea that maybe there won't be much to do in this game outside of just following the main story. After all, we already knew that Quidditch would not be playable, and then during the first showcase, Avalanche proceeded to tell us more things that we can't do. I've also been fairly worried that the combat in this game may end up being a bit too elementary, should I say, not really engaging enough to hold the interest of an adult mind. But little did I know. A month later, Avalanche Software would drop another full gameplay showcase, and I gotta say, they might be proving the devil on my right shoulder wrong. Let's jump right into it. The first demonstration we were presented with was of some exploration of the open world outside of the castle walls. I think a lot of us have been wondering how open world will this game truly be. Well, right here you can see the player character standing in some grass near the suspension bridge overlooking the Black Lake. This is where we left off from the previous gameplay demonstration. And then all this happens. I certainly wasn't expecting this world to be as open and gigantic as what we just saw, and on top of that, the visuals were quite beautiful. Alan 2, Hogwarts Legacy's game director, told us that there will be this moment that us players will reach early on in the game, where the world outside of Hogwarts opens right up to us, and then we can go wherever we want to. He did warn us, however, that different areas will have different levels of challenge. So even though we can go somewhere, it doesn't necessarily mean that we should go somewhere. Now, for methods of open world travel, you can of course go places on foot or discover Floo-Flame locations. But come on, we can also hop on our broomstick. We are told that we can purchase other broomsticks for cosmetic purposes at a broom shop in the village of Hogsmeade. We'll also be able to upgrade our broomstick by helping out the owner of that broom shop. From the way it sounds, these upgrades will allow you to fly at higher elevations while maintaining your maximum speed. You notice in the bottom right, you can see a yellow bar above the health bar, and this is your broom's turbo meter. When you're flying close to the ground, the turbo meter will stay maxed out, allowing you to fly at maximum speed. But when you start to fly upwards and get to a certain elevation, that turbo meter starts to drain, and when it's gone, your max speed will be slowed down. But if broom flight isn't your thing, how about you pop a hippogriff out of your magical bag? The hippogriff can be used as a land and flying mount. And we also know that Thestrals will be in the game, and they can also be land and flying mounts. And this particular one you can get through the Dark Arts pack from the deluxe edition of the game. To many of our surprise, we also recently learned that we'll be able to ride a Graphhorn, which would of course be a land mount. And you can see a Graphhorn in this clip where the player is inside their Vivarium, and more on that shortly. A big gigantic world is nothing without content though, and on this journey we got to see several wizard hamlets scattered across the land, many of which have interactable NPCs and vendors. What we're seeing right here is not the village of Hogsmeade. This is just a small little village with a few dwellings out on the countryside. There are also several points on the map that the player passed that appear to be little puzzles that we can attempt to solve to increase our knowledge on ancient magic. And further away from the hamlets, there are hostile creatures, of course, and although we didn't get a great look at anything in this demonstration, we did possibly see spiders right here, some goblins, whatever the heck this thing is, and I'm sure one of you will be able to identify it. We got to see wolves and a big old fish. The minimap as the player explores is filled with all sorts of icons, perhaps too many icons, which in my opinion can take away from the discovery aspect of a game, but the good news is that we do know that we can turn off our minimap if we so choose. There will also be resources scattered across the land for us to collect to use in crafting activities in our room of requirement, as you can see the player right here in the Forbidden Forest passing by some harvestable mushrooms. We also know that we'll be able to find and rescue magical beasts in the open world to bring them back to our vivarium to take care of them. Now, one of my favorite shots of the demonstration is right here, where the player can see Hogwarts in the distance. It's going to be a whole nother level of immersion when you're in the castle, perhaps peering out a window, and you can see this vast open world waiting for you to discover it. Before we move on to the next two sections, if you are enjoying this video and would like more content like this in the future, please consider hitting that subscribe button. I do greatly appreciate it. Now let's take a look at the Room of Requirement, which is going to be one of your central hub type locations, and then we'll get into combat. The Room of Requirement is where a lot of your crafting will be done, whether that be potions, plants, or gear. And your Vivarium will also be kept here, as you can see the entrance to one of them straight ahead. Also notice this magical entryway, which I'm assuming is another Vivarium with a different biome theme. Avalanche surprised us by showing us some of the customization agency that we'll have in this room, starting with architecture, as you can see the player switching between different types of ceilings. We'll also be able to add statues, rugs, tables, ornaments, and more, and you can see that some of this requires a resource called Moonstone. To get these schematics, or should I say conjuration recipes, you can buy them in a shop called Tomes and Scrolls, which is located in Hogsmeade. And you'll also be rewarded with conjuration recipes by doing various activities in the game. There's size customization, color customization, and you can place things for the most part wherever you desire. We'll also have some customization over the actual crafting stations, as you can see the player altering the appearance of this planting station. This station right here is an identify station where you'll take gear that you have found in the world, and this will reveal its magical properties. And speaking of properties, Avalanche also showed us the Loom Station, where players will be able to customize and tweak the magical properties of pieces of gear. Right here, we can see the player upgrade the defense value of this magical scarf from 0 to 4, which requires mooncalf fur. After the upgrade is complete, to further upgrade its defense, the player needs more resources, and in this case, more mooncalf fur, but also fwooper feathers. The player then adds a discovered trait to the scarf, which in this case is anti-venom, which decreases damage taken from spiders. We'll also be able to change the appearance of our gear pieces. It's not a crazy, complex, deep system, but I kind of like it, and it proves to me that there are seemingly many things that we can do and work for outside of just the main story. Speaking of things to do, let's now head into the Vivarium. In our Vivarium, we can name, pet, and feed magical creatures that we've rescued from poachers. But don't forget to also conjure up some toys. In addition to caring for our magical creatures, we can also conjure and customize things in this space as well. We got to watch the player change this ruined tower into a ruined archway. Got to watch them mess around with a bench, create some trees, and much, much more. There will be Vivarium-specific crafting stations here as well, such as the Beast Feeder. And we were already told that we can customize our own cottage. What a beautiful creative space to allow us to have in this game. And for the final section of the video, let's get into some combat, because this combat demonstration was honestly at least 2 times better than what I expected after seeing the first combat demonstration a few weeks ago. This player is approaching what the game is calling a combat arena, and we're told that there will be 2 of these arenas in the base game, and those who purchase the deluxe edition will get an extra arena called the Dark Arts Arena, which is the one that this player is approaching right here. The Dark Arts Arena is unique in that it allows the player to have access to some preloaded abilities, such as the 3 Unforgivable curses, whether or not you have learned or acquired them in the game yet. You basically get to test out these dark spells without any real consequence to see if it's a path that you may want to venture down in your playthrough. These combat arenas are places to not only practice your combat through waves of enemies, but you can also earn new cosmetics for your character to add to your collection. Let me start off by showing you avada kedavra.
All right. He's just bouncing around the arena. He's like nuts. And the troll makes him move around.
You can see that this spell is represented by the skull icon on the right side of the player's spell diamond. You'll also notice that the cooldown is much longer for this spell than any of the other more normal spells, should I say. This icon on the top of the diamond is Imperio, the mind control curse. And the one on the bottom is Crucio, the torture curse.
Right away, oh my god.
We're starting off strong.
Oh my god, was that Crucio? Oh my god.
Sound effects are certainly on point here. It was also confirmed to us that the 2 bars above the health bar are in fact your ancient magic meters. And when one fills up, if you're using a controller, you'll see L1 and R1 pop up on your target. And if you press these buttons, you're able to then use a devastating ancient magic spell like you can see right here.
And you'll see a wide variety of enemies in here that are...
And right here.
If you just want to blast people with spells, go for it. But we also want to...
You may also notice enemies dropping blue orbs on the ground every so often, and these orbs are bits of ancient magic that drop from enemies as you build up combos, and only your character can see these orbs. Picking these orbs up will give you a boost to your ancient magic meter. Now, I already talked about spells in combat quite a lot in my spells video, so now let's move on to tools that you can bring with you on the battlefield. Your tools are represented by this box right here in the bottom left. And this particular potion is a rock skin potion, which reduces incoming damage. We also got to see a focus potion, which reduces your cooldown timers. Now, let me go back right here so you can see this clip again. Notice the character dodge rolling out of the way from the troll, kind of giving me some Souls-like vibes. Now, seeing this actually brought joy to my eyes, because combat is clearly going to be more than just constantly slinging spells at dumb enemies. It actually seems quite engaging, and it seems to reward and encourage good movement. The next tool that we witnessed was a plant called the Venomous Tentacula, which when placed on the ground will act as a sort of turret. You may also notice dueling feats on the right side of the screen, and these are challenges that encourage you to try out different things. And the last bit of new info that we got here are about these green X's that you can see on some of the opponents. And we're told that this is some type of mechanic through the talent system that allows you to curse multiple enemies, and this curse will cause these enemies to share damage. It can even go as far as you casting avada kedavra, and instead of just killing one enemy, it ends up killing multiple cursed enemies. All in all, I was pretty happy with this combat demonstration, and it kind of changed my outlook on the combat a bit and eased some of my worry. There's a lot more to it than I expected, and most importantly, it looks engaging and fun. So yeah, between the world outside of Hogwarts looking incredible, the combat looking engaging and fun, and the Room of Requirement and Vivariums having a lot more to them than I expected, I'm starting to feel much more confident in this game. Now, of course, everything's not going to be perfect, and games rarely live up to the true idea that you have in your imagination, but I'm very happy that they released this gameplay showcase, and I'm really excited for the future of this game. Thank you all so much for watching. Much more in-depth Hogwarts Legacy content to come, and I'll catch you on the next one.